Hi, welcome to Nap Time Nutrition. I'm Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian and owner of Baby Bloom Nutrition and Toddler Test Kitchen. And today is Daniela Wolf with me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, we did an interview on your podcast for Best D Life. And okay, so why don't you tell us just a little bit about what you do? Because you do patterns. We're talking about that today.
I do habits and patterns, but I help busy working moms develop those habits and patterns so that they can kind of ditch the overwhelm and guilt they feel every day, manage their time and daily tasks with ease, and just have some fun and find ways to integrate self-care, and not just what you typically think of as self-care, but integrate self-care in some way every single day.
Yeah, somehow the whole concept of self-care has been really co-opted, and now we're getting messages that basic hygiene is self-care. And that's not self-care, that's basic hygiene. And that's
Right.
we can't consider that a break, much like the weekend is not a break. You don't consider a trip to the bathroom to pee a break. So, brushing your hair, it's like
No. But I talked about it recently. I think I was on an episode of my podcast I did where that might not be the self-care or the break, but that could be the trigger to take the break. Brushing your teeth, there's a term called habit stacking where you take something you're already doing every day as your routine. Brushing your teeth could be then the moment that you take an extra couple of minutes and meditate, maybe do those calf raises you've been meaning to get to, or whatever it is, using those normalized things that are part of your day and adding on to them. When I go to the bathroom at work, I take an extra couple laps around my office so that I am fitting in 5 to 10 minutes of walking and a break every
right,
time I go.
right.
So it's not about, taking those daily hygiene things and making them your self-care, but using them as a means to add on so that you don't feel like, well, I don't have time. It's just another thing to add onto my plate, something more to schedule. It's not.
Right. And I love that you brought up the bathroom, because the thing is that you took an extra couple of laps, which is not sitting on the toilet and scrolling Facebook. And the reason you don't want to do that is a couple of things. One is that if you really think about it, scrolling on Facebook doesn't contribute to a sense of well-being or calm or anything that we would aim to get from meditation. The other is that sitting on the toilet for longer than you need to actually contributes to colon cancer.
Oh,
So, yeah. So it is very important that we think critically about the choices that we make, not necessarily about colon cancer. I mean, we can't go through our day thinking everything causes colon cancer, but just the idea of I'm scrolling right now and my goal is to calm down and have a serene moment. Is this serving my needs?
right.
Because generally, scrolling on social media really isn't meeting your needs for a calm, collected moment.
Right. Or even, I use my laps and I'll pick up a coworker and a friend, and that's a time to connect, and that's a time to chat and to let go of some of those things that we keep inside that stay in our head if we're scrolling or if we're just always on our own. So there's definitely different ways and opportunities to take those moments and make them yours and really own them.
Right. I love that you took a philosophy that I teach and threw it back at me with a different flavor. I mean, we teach habit stacking all the time in nutrition. Oh, I'm having the hardest time taking my vitamins every morning when I wake up. Oh, put them next to your toothbrush,
Right.
this is how we can create new habits, because it does take a while to create new habits. So first habit we're creating is not seeing regular hygiene as self-care. We can use it as an opportunity to pursue self-care, but brushing your teeth is not self-care. That's just a normal expected behavior that, thank God, we live in these years and have access to hygiene, and we can do that. That's not self-care. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So let's see here. Why motherhood is so exhausting. That was the first point on there, on my outline here. So the thing is, like, we know that let's just broaden this a little bit. Adulthood is exhausting, and adulting is exhausting.
Thinking of what to make for dinner every day is exhausting.
Yes, yeah, it takes up a lot of mental real estate. Like that's a gremlin living in your head, when maybe instead of that gremlin, you could replace it with the nice lady who gives out full Snickers bars on Halloween.
Right.
meal planning just like gets that out of the way. So I think that's a good example of something that I already teach that fits with your habits and patterns is meal planning. It's not meal planning for me. It's not meal planning for this goal or for that goal. It's meal planning for sanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we throw in expectations of it's got to meet people's palates. It's got to meet certain nutritional requirements. It's got to meet all these other expectations. And that's what makes it so stressful. Or it's got to be new and creative because we can't have meatloaf every Wednesday, even though I don't know why not. But I grew up in an Italian household and we had pasta every Wednesday and Sunday. That was just a thing.
Okay.
And that's okay.
We probably do a similar pattern. We definitely had pasta last night. Yeah, we've actually gotten into an interesting pattern that I did not realize would be so stress relieving. But over the pandemic, we did a pod school system where a close friend of mine who had actually been a public school teacher took over teaching for my kids and her kids. And now we've extended that now that the kids are back in school. Their whole family comes over every Tuesday for dinner, or we go to their house.
Fun.
Yeah, we alternate it back and forth. And we have, the thing is that we do something easy. So last night was pasta bar, and I made a big pot of pasta and put out a bunch of other stuff that could or could not go on top of pasta. And everyone made their thing, and that's that pattern, both the deconstructed meals and the family dinners that are just in the middle of the week with no religious or other connotation attached to them, no gifts that are attached, no gigantic ritual meals that are attached. That's a nice thing for me. And I didn't anticipate that. So you help people kind of anticipate that type of thing.
Right. Well, or just even not always anticipate, but just know that there's options. I think there isn't one right way. And I think by letting go, a lot of what I do is some mindset work of letting go of those expectations, letting go of the thoughts and ideas of what it should be, and just allowing it to be, whether it's everybody picks whatever they want from the pantry and that's an okay dinner, whatever, breakfast for dinner, kind of allowing yourself the options of not feeling like it has to be so rigidly defined is part of what then allows it to have that freedom and that flow, and then makes it fun again. And I think, because we avoid things that aren't fun. And so if we can find a way to make it fun again, my kids laugh sometimes, like I pick our music based on what we're eating. So, or, we have like themed music for the day of the week, or just different things to try to like bring that fun back into it. And so being able to do some of that also helps just to give it a different tone, and kind of you walk away with something more than just, okay, I put food in my mouth and I'm fed.
Right. Yeah. And that's my whole platform is making mealtime more fun, because the more positive experiences we have over and around food, the more varied decisions we're going to make on our food choices moving forward. And that variety leads to a variety of nutrition. And so what you're saying with expectations, I think parenting comes down to expectations. I think life is expectation management. And a great example of what you just said that comes up in nutrition a lot is people ask, what does a balanced plate look like? Well, here's the thing. Expectations. We expect that the plate will be balanced. We expect what balanced looks like, and we expect that every plate is going to be quote unquote balanced. And the truth is, you can look at the My Plate guide from the current model from the US government. And that's a fairly good idea. But the thing is that breakfast is not going to look like that. If you think of your average breakfast, it's going to be more carb heavy. And there are reasons for that. Or even if you're having like scrambled eggs and toast, it's not going to fit the mold. It's important to remember that much like everything else in life, nutrition has patterns, and we meet our nutrition needs over a few meals, not one meal. So the question of what does a balanced meal look like, there are errors in the question itself, because it assumes that every meal is going to be balanced. So So
well, and that even ties into, a lot of what I talk about. People are like, well, you can't find balance every day. And that's right. Balance is going to come over the course of a week. And some days you might be able to rest and relax a little bit longer than other days. And, that's why it can be such a triggering word for people, where balance is how you adapt, pivot, have boundaries and resilience. And I think the same way with food, you have boundaries. You might not eat the whole pie, but that doesn't mean you can't have a piece of pie as part of your balanced meal. If you have a day that's a little bit heavier, you look at the holidays coming up, they're going to be heavier in certain areas. And then you have that resiliency of bouncing back to your normal routines, you know, it's all connected.
Right. And that resilience that you mentioned is so important. It's important for us to foster that in our kids, but it's also important for us to foster that in ourselves as parents. Resilience is something that's sorely lacking today in society. And I really think it comes from confidence and by having appropriate patterns that can build your confidence. And that leads to that resilience, bouncing back from all of these hiccups. We can't control things that happen in life, but we can do things to set ourselves up for those hiccups to be successful, for us to be successful through the hiccups.
Absolutely. And just like we keep saying, you know, those expectations being, allowing them to have some flexibility. And I'm all about options. I love having options, you know, so that it's not about what happens at that moment, but the end result. And by having those flexibilities with those options and expectations is how we're going to roll through all of it.
I hear that. So how can people go about identifying patterns that are not working for them, patterns that need to be adjusted?
I mean, I think it's going to take some self-reflection. You know, it's going to take those moments of when you feel like the ugh, I just can't, you know, take note of what's happening at that moment. What am I physically feeling? What's happening around me? And how am I responding to it? You know, so much of when it comes to those negative feelings, it comes from our locus of control. Do we feel like we have a say, or do we feel like it's being directed towards us? And so, you know, being able to have that self-identification and look at then how often is that happening? Is it certain parts of the day? You know, I have like certain times of my day, my morning routine, you know, that I know I'm a little bit more inflexible than maybe others, because I know that I'm setting myself up for a good day, for a good night's sleep, you know. And so recognizing your patterns, recognizing how you feel during them, and then being able to say, okay, what do I want to feel, is how you then kind of work backwards and create the behaviors and habits and routines to lead to what you want to feel, not just staying stuck in the moment.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a process, and it
Yeah.
sounds harder than it is, but it's really super simple once you get, you know, into that routine of recognizing those things.
Yeah. I love that, what you want to feel like. You know, think about the kind of person you want to be and how you want to see yourself and
Mm-hmm.
go toward that. And with
How do you want
motherhood,
your kids to speak about you? Who do you want them to know too? You know,
oh,
I
yeah.
know.
I've I've been saying that your laughter should be your child's childhood soundtrack. I need to come up with a better, like a smoother way. You know, there should be like some meme style way to get that across that I'll work on. But yeah, we need to find ways that we can lighten up. And I think having patterns that work can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so you identify those moments where you go, ugh. For me, it's I notice that I'm clenching my fists, or I notice that I just really want to scream. You know, this whole
Mm-hmm.
like I tried to do this primal screaming thing, and it turns out that you shouldn't have coping mechanisms that can't translate. And when I'm working at the hospital, I can't just start screaming.
No.
Found that out the hard way. No, I was just sitting at my desk going, wow, I really want to scream right now.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's that feeling of screaming, or the fists. So that's a great thing, you know, when you're eating and you have that big breath, that's like your moment of reflection with the meal. And when you have your moment of making fists or screaming or going, that's
Right.
your moment of reflection in the day, and maybe you can change it up. So what's a common pattern that you help people identify and shift in order to help free up some of that valuable brain space?
Definitely, I think some of just the mindless activities that we do, and not in realizing how they interfere with the things that we say we want. You know, we say we want to maybe have more organized meal systems. We want to work out. We want to see our friends more, but we don't prioritize them the same way that maybe we hop on our phone first thing in the morning. We're checking our emails, we're doing different things. And so being able to really discriminate between, you know, what's important and urgent and what's what we want, and being able to kind of put those things intentionally planned, and giving, you know, time with our friends or time even for ourselves to go read a book the same priority as, you know, I need to go grocery shopping. Like things that we don't think we need to make the time for is what we do, because we don't see it as valuable, but we don't recognize like we're doing such a disservice if we don't put those habits and patterns into our day. So that's kind of like the big thing, is really having them start self-reflecting on their time, and then their mindset and the things. Well, why can't you do that? And they'll give me a list of like all the reasons of what they should, or how guilty they feel, or different things, and helping them work through that mindset is how we then kind of create the habits to help them normalize and integrate those things seamlessly into their day.
That's so interesting. It reminded me of a time when I did an exchange of counseling with a professional organizer. And I was trying to convince her to do meal planning. And she was trying to convince me to clean my dishes in my sink so I can wake up to a clean sink in the morning. And it was funny that we were both using the same verbiage on each other. But it's only 10 minutes. It only takes 10 minutes. Yeah. The thing is that it's where your priorities are. Her 10 minutes would be spent on the dishes. My 10 minutes are spent on the meals. She doesn't have meals prepped, and I have a sink full of dirty dishes. People are different, and we have different preferences and different things that are our trigger points and things that stress us out. And so that self-reflection is essential.
It is. That's part of, I have a quiz on my website. If people want to check it out, it's your self-care IQ. And it covers these 6 or 7 different areas, because how we organize, how we sleep, how we eat, how we move, how we think about money, our social connections, like these all areas we don't realize as part of our self-care. And they can be little 10-minute shifts here and there. But if we don't recognize them as part of what's triggering that stress and overwhelm by not doing them, is how, we can get out of sync. And so just kind of like you said, recognizing like, okay, I spend 10 minutes on my dishes, it's going to change the flow of my day. And sometimes it's just that acknowledgement of knowing where your points are. You might be a rock star at fitting in a workout every day, but you avoid looking at your bank account because you don't ever want to think about money.
It's true. We all have our personalities, and we can play to our personalities, and we can, sometimes hire people to make up for the things that we would like done that are not actually going to get done due to our patterns and or preferences. My house cleaned this past week, and that was a big thing for me. So that's a new pattern I'm getting into. I tried to establish the pattern for a long time that I would clean my own house, and I realized that it's a huge time commitment. It's a big mental commitment, and I am doing other things. And pretty much every civilization in history has a tradition of hiring domestic help. So it's important to not be hard on yourself. It's difficult to talk about, I am taking help. I am taking anti-anxiety medication. I am hiring people to help clean my house. But these are patterns I've identified in my life that needed help. And now I'm having help with them, and I'm feeling better.
And I think the more we talk about them, the more we realize we're all getting help with something, with some different thing, and it's shifting from, we learn, these patterns of first the longest time women were just the caretakers. They stayed at home, they ran the house and the kids. And then it's, well, you can enter the workforce and you can do it all, and you can bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan. But we never let go of anything. We just kept adding things, and we thought we had to do it all and be it all in order to show we were capable of it. But just because I can do something doesn't mean I have to and I should.
Yeah, we really just snowballed all of those responsibilities.
Yeah, and we made a mountain out of a molehill, like literally.
We did. And it became very obvious during the pandemic when people who thought that they had very equitable marriages were suddenly home and everyone's working from home, and how the responsibilities fell out. A lot of people had a quite rude awakening. That was unfortunate, and thankful to not be in that group. So we named... Go ahead.
No,
We named this episode, "The Weekend is Not a Break." The reason I chose that title is because a lot of times we get to the end of the weekend and we have this idea from childhood that like, ooh, summer break, ooh, fall break, spring break, weekends. It's not the same concept, but much like we've snowballed those responsibilities, we snowball that concept that the weekend is simultaneously the time we get everything done and the time that we're relaxing. And if you really think about it, that's ridiculous.
Right. And it's, again, those expectations of, trying to achieve two very individual things at once. It's impossible, and we're going to be disappointed. And then that's where it compounds.
Right, particularly if you're parenting. I mean, when you're parenting, you have little kids at home. It's like the word vacation changes, you know? It's not a
Yeah.
vacation anymore. It's a family outing, and it takes a lot of effort. And the weekend is the same. And so we can't end our week thinking, oh, thank God it's Friday. You know, I have grown to hate that phrase. Thank God it's Friday. You know what? I'm
Mhm.
trapped in my house with a bunch, like a small army that I have built and somehow
Right.
trained to frustrate me at every turn. It's not a break. And if I don't take care of my self-care, if I don't consider my habits, it's the
Mhm.
opposite of a break. It's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, to rethink about, well, what's gonna move the needle for you this weekend? Hiring someone, instead of loading it with guilt and shame and bad feelings, to really embrace it and celebrate it. Like, yeah, so and so's coming this weekend or whatever, and turn it into almost like something as a whole, as a family we embrace, or everyone's, gonna chip in and do this for 20 minutes so that we can, have fun together.
It's true. It's true. And the subject of productivity came up a lot over 2020 as well. And I read this morning a meme that was based on a Native American teaching. The exact culture wasn't mentioned, but it was the idea that in Western civilization, we think that the purpose of life is productivity, whereas in other civilizations, such as the native one from the person who was posting, she was saying that our purpose might be the same as the purpose of nature. It's there to be beautiful and strange and enjoy
Hmm.
the time we have, and then it's gone. We don't have to be constantly producing. We don't
Hmm.
have to, like, spending a joyful moment with your family is
Yeah.
enough. It doesn't
Yeah.
have
And
to be a post. It doesn't have to be a picture or a blog or anything else. It could just
yeah,
be.
like you said, that laughter is a soundtrack. Like, to take those mindful moments when you hear someone's laughing and really to, what does it sound like? How does it make you feel? What does their face look like? And I think when we're present at those moments is how we can appreciate them and see them as productive in their own way.
Yeah, productive in their own way because it's productive
Hmm.
toward the goal of joy. And that comes back to
Hmm.
that whole, like, raising resilient kids and enjoying resiliency yourself.
Yep. Ingrid Fattel Lee has a great book called Joyful. And it's all about just the pursuit of joy, and that it's moments of joy that create happiness. Happiness doesn't exist as its own entity, but it's those moments of joy throughout the day, watching a leaf make that little crackling noise as it blows down the street, or, whatever.
Yeah. When I talk about gratitude, that's the kind of thing I bring up because it's one thing to say that we're thankful for our family and for our health and for our gigantic material things like houses and cars. But these things are huge, and considering gratitude for these huge things in our lives can be overwhelming. And it's kind of like saying the same word over and over till it loses its meaning. Of course,
Hmm.
you're grateful for your health, but you can't focus on that every second. What you can focus on is that leaf that's blowing by that you didn't expect, and the sound it made, and the smell of that blossom, or seeing that hummingbird just flying right
Hmm.
outside your window. These are little tiny things that are like bite-sized pieces of gratitude that are much easier to digest than these big
Hmm.
overarching concepts. And I do recognize the amount of puns that I just threw at you.
No, but that's the whole point is, when I talk about, you can find fun in self-care every single day. People look at me sometimes like, what do you mean every day? Like, how is that possible every day? And it's not 45 minutes, an hour massage, a bubble bath, or face mask, whatever. It's those little moments, those little things, watching someone laughing, watching, your family doing this, enjoying that cup of coffee in the morning, and that smell and your senses and all of that. That's the everyday self-care that's going to fill you up, that you're going to have that gratitude that you won't even recognize keeps you sustained and going.
I love that. So I'm a big advocate of adding something to the schedule rather than removing something.
Hmm.
It's the same with nutrition. If someone wants to make healthier habits, I tell them add something rather than take it away because it's more sustainable. So with
Hmm.
this, I think the thing that I would say is it's the same thing. Add. Don't think about what's stressing you out and remove it. Start with noticing some small things that you can be grateful for. I am grateful for this
I love that. I drink that
Yeah,
all the time.
the name drives me nuts. Is it LaCroix or LaCroix? Because I took French in high school and I want to say LaCroix. Anyway, this is the
Say
limoncello.
LaCroix.
LaCroix?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have to look it up. But this is the limoncello and it's cold. And so I'm thankful for the flavor and that I have it and that it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be grateful for my health at the same time, but that's easier to be grateful for. And that has a greater
But
impact.
just the fact that you're picking a water over a soda, then from that health standpoint, it all ties in. You're drinking your water, even though it's bubbly and flavored.
You know what? I actually never did well with this with the sugar in soda, and I think it's perfectly fine for people to make that active decision to drink and enjoy a soda. For me, I just like the bubbles.
Yeah. See, I don't like bubbles. I'm a flat person, but I do like the LaCroix limoncello.
So we can come to some common ground over the limoncello flavor. It's delicious.
Yes.
I'm taking a look at our outline to see if we missed anything. We talked about expectations and how lonely and exhausting parenting can be, and why the weekend isn't a break, and we can get to Sunday and look at Monday. And you know what? I look at Monday honestly as a break after the weekend.
Sometimes it can. Coming back to work, I think a lot of parents, especially after being home with your kids 24/7, they realized what a break it was. Even if their job was stressful, that commute, the 20 minutes you might have by yourself to read a book, listen to a podcast, catch up and sing karaoke on your favorite songs or call a friend, sometimes just recognizing that time for what it was as opposed to just that treacherous drive back and forth.
Yes, I think it's amazing what's relaxing now that wasn't relaxing earlier in life. And definitely traffic is there. And
Yeah, I
I was
would
telling
say
someone I
getting
missed.
stuck in traffic if I'm not totally going to be late for something or a line at the grocery store, like I'll pick the longest one just to buy myself some time.
I hear that. I hear that, definitely. Wow. I've just been taking an opportunity to go outside every moment I can. Right now, my computer is saying it's 67 and sunny. This is Arizona. October hits, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing through May. So
I'm
I'm
jealous.
going.
This is Buffalo, and we've been in the waking up to the 40s. It's been chilly.
Oh no. Yeah. So what is your number one thing that you think that most people could do to improve their joy overall in life?
I think change their expectations a little bit by shifting their mindset, their expectations, and seeing options in smaller ways as opposed to these big grandiose events and situations, I think is how we start to move the needle. Even something small as, people want to start a workout routine, whether it's before the holidays, after the holidays, and they buy gym memberships and set these big goals that then maybe are harder to implement as opposed to I'm going to add 10 minutes. And you can Google and find some awesome 10-minute workouts and start adding just 10 minutes at a time, these small little pockets, I think is the catalyst to making bigger things happen.
I hear that. And I would love to recommend Fitness Marshall videos on YouTube. Not only is he super fun and use fun music, but he gives a variety of options for those with different skills. He features people with different abilities and skin colors and body sizes. And it's just all overall a very positive, happy way to spend 5 to 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah. So where can people find more about you and from you?
So I'm on Instagram as Facebook as Bestie Life with Daniela Wolf, as well as I have a website, bestielife.com. And I would love to just chat and connect. And, I love talking all things self-care and options.
Yeah, it's so important to feel joy in our lives, and if we can't separate the mental and the physical, they're connected, and our positive mental state will have a positive impact on our physical health as well. So it's important to not say I'm taking care of my physical health, I'm taking care of my mental health. You're just taking care of you.
And by taking care of you, you really are taking care of everybody else. And I think just to begin to move that needle, to start that process and to recognize, like you said, when it comes to asking for help, that's how we start. It doesn't mean it's not a weakness, and that's part of, just like I said, I work with people one-on-one and help them move from that chaos to calm and find what's going to help them move that needle and what's going to help them find, their success.
That's amazing. And we can just be happier like that, enjoy life more like that. We're only here for a certain amount of time, let's make the most of it. So thank you for your important work, helping people pass on the important message of joy.
No, thank you, Yaffi. I love just connecting and hearing, like, I learned something new today as well. So definitely I will be passing that along.
Awesome. And before I close it out, I'm just going to tell our audience that I mentioned to Daniela before on the podcast that I'm in my PJs and she's stressed and at work. So we're representing the before and after of patterns and identifying patterns and changing patterns. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for being on Naptime Nutrition. And I'll be back next time I have something awesome to throw at you.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.